time to wake up. It's Saturday morning. Find some milk and cereal. Grab a bowl and spoon. No, a bigger spoon. Head to the living room and take a seat on the floor while Joseph and Chris present to you Saturday Morning Cartoon!
Hello everybody, welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoon Boom! This is a show where we wake up with a Saturday morning sun, plopped on the floor with a big bowl of sugary cereal, and we'll try your favorite cartoons, both old and new. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Chris.
And this morning, we watched Danny Phantom. He's a phantom. What I liked about it, though, is that it does tell you the whole story of how he came to be. Because I was questioning it before the credits came on. I was like, yes. I wonder how this came to be. And then I got exactly what I wanted. I'm like, okay, I don't need anything else.
And they explain it better in the intro than they do in the actual episode. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, true.
And this was suggested by Sam.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Just anyone named Sam, I just assume you need to talk to him with like, I don't know, like in one of those old accents from like the old black and white movies where they talk real fast and wear really high pants.
That's a very specific assumption.
They all have hats. So
his name's Sam.
He's a Phantom.
So the show Danny Phantom aired from 2004 to 2007, created by Butch Hartman, who is also known for Fairly Odd Parents, including other shows, and developed by Steve Marmel. This is produced by Billionfold Inc. and Nickelodeon Animation Studios, ran for 3 seasons, 53 episodes on the Nickelodeon Network. And for a short synopsis, a 14-year-old receives ghost powers and uses them to save the world. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. I mean,
pretty much.
I guess that's the gist of it.
Which sounds ghost pretty powers. Ridiculous, but they make it work. Ghost powers.
I mean, that seems like a really vague set of powers, but it'll get explained.
Kind of, but as you watch the show, it's like, well, he keeps getting like new ghost powers. So it's like, I guess it makes sense to just call them ghost powers because that means it can be pretty much whatever they decide to come up with.
Yeah.
So who are some of the actors who played in this show?
So the character of Danny Fenton is voiced by David Kaufman, who was also the voice of Marty McFly from the Back to the Future cartoon series. He was Dexter Douglas in Freakazoid, Jimmy Olsen in Superman the Animated Series, and Stuart Little in the Stuart Little television series. That little mouse thing, that drives cars, like tiny cars.
I didn't know he had a series.
It was boring. The voice of Sam, Samantha Sam Manson, was Gray Delisle, also sometimes seen as Gray Delisle Griffin. She was Evie in the Mummy animated series. I didn't know there was one. I'm kind of interested now. She was Kimiko in Shaolin Showdown. She's Daphne in What's New Scooby-Doo. Mandy in The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Azula in Avatar The Last Airbender. She's Miss Marvel in the Superhero Squad show. And and Isla in Green Lantern the Animated Series. And the Ice Queen from Adventure Time. We've talked about her a little bit before, and she's got a long resume, so we're just probably going to keep seeing her name pop up. The voice of Tucker Foley was Ricky Deshaun Collins. His only real recognizable credit for me was the voice of Vince from Recess. Jazz Fenton was voiced by Colleen O'Shaughnessy, who was the voice of Ino Yamanaka from Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. Am I saying that? I don't know. Doesn't matter. that sequel to Naruto. Yeah. She was also Janet Van Dyne in Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and Marvel Disc Wars, which is I don't even know what that would be, but okay. And she voices Tails in Sonic Boom. The voice of Jack Fenton was Rob Paulson, who needs no real introduction. We talk about him all the time. He's from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the old one and the new one, Pinky and the Brain, Animaniacs, Saber Rider and the Star Sheriffs, The Adventures of the Gummy Bears, Darkwing Duck, and The Tick, among many, many others. The character of Dash Baxter was S. Scott Bullock, who has been in shows such as Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. He was Argos Bleak from Captain Planet. In the video game Leisure Suit Larry 7, he voices 3 characters. Can you guess the names of those characters, Joseph?
No, I cannot.
Their names are Peter, Dick, and Wang.
Nice.
He's been in tons and tons of game series. Seems like more series than animated shows. So series like Mass Effect, several Final Fantasy games, Dishonored, Titan Quest. He's in a ton of those things. So if you name a video game, he's there somewhere. He's hanging out in the back. The voice of Maddie Fenton was Kath Soucie, who I didn't know this, and I feel like I may have looked this up before, but I didn't think about it. The voice of Kitty Pryde from Pride of the X-Men, which is just this
cool.
super obscure, awesome Marvel short that was going to be a X-Men series, and it didn't become an X-Men series, but we'll have to do that one sometime. She's the voice of Minx from Gem. She was Janine in Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters and the Real Ghostbusters. The Real Ghostbusters. She was Yvonne from Toxic Crusaders, Morgana in Darkwing Duck, Linka in Captain Planet, the mom from Dexter's Laboratory, Phil and Lil DeVille, it's hard to say, from the Rugrats, and Hubert Farnsworth from Futurama. And last but not least, Vice Principal Lancer, voiced by Ron Perlman, who people who watch TVs or movies would know this guy. He was Vincent in Beauty and the Beast, the TV series. He was Clayface from Batman the Animated Series. He's Hellboy in Hellboy movies. He's Slade in the Teen Titans, the new Teen Titans, and Teen Titans Go. He was Clay from Sons of Anarchy, the Lich from Adventure Time, Bular and Troll Hunters, and he's also in Pacific Rim and the Amazon series Hand of God. Catch it on Amazon Prime. We are not sponsored. I'm just pretending like we are, so maybe they'll sponsor us in the future.
Maybe one day.
Yeah.
Anytime I hear Saber Rider and the Star Sheriffs, the song just pops into my head. Like I can't not hear it.
I don't remember it anymore.
You'll remember it. It's a Saber Riders and the Star Sheriffs.
Oh yeah, I forgot they had the Star Sheriffs as the afterthought.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the song that stuck in my head, and you called it in our last episode, that the song from The Year Without a Santa Claus, where the two misers sing their songs, where it's like dun 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 boom, bum bum bum. Like it has been in my head ever since we did that episode, and it won't stop, and it's driving me insane.
I told you it'll sneak up on you. You'll be trying to sleep, and it'll keep you awake at night.
Me and my girlfriend had an hour and a half drive somewhere, and then an hour and a half drive back this past weekend for the holidays, and like we'd be driving, it'd be all quiet, and then all of a sudden I'm like, dun dun dun, and then she would just join in, and then we're both like, why? Why is this happening to us?
You're welcome.
We even made our own lyrics, so we can't repeat on this show.
They can't be repeated, but suffice it to say, they involve poo,
fecal matter,
in such a way. Fecal matter. There you go.
Yeah, I got to send it to you, so you and Shaddai could sing it as well, and you did.
Yes, and we did.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it stuck around.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, no, you'll never forget it though. So. You're welcome. For a few tasty marshmallows out of our big bowl of Danny Phantom cereal, the whole show in some way or another revolves around names of ghosts or spirits, like the high school is called Casper High, referring to Casper the Friendly Ghost. Also, the town that they live in is called Amity Park, referring to Amityville, where ghost spirits caused a man to kill his family in Amityville Horror. Also, Danny's high school mascot is a raven, referring to Edgar Allan Poe's famous poem, The Raven. And another reference is involved with the show's main characters, Danny Fenton and his father, Jack Fenton. Danny and Jack were the father and son's names in Stephen King's The Shining.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, the last two, but
Yeah, me neither. So it's like really kind of deep cuts there. Like the names are presented pretty prevalently, but you don't really think about it until you see it actually.
Yeah,
So,
I had caught Casper and the Amityville references, but those are the only ones that I caught right off the bat.
Yeah, same here. And then, the other ones are just kind of like tucked away there.
Well, Samantha's last name is Manson. Do you think that's a reference to all the ghosts that Charles Manson helped create?
Maybe. I don't know.
Just spitballing here, but I'm sure that that's what they were going for.
So originally there was going to be an animal sidekick for the show, an owl named Spooky, but apparently Harry Potter came out and was so popular that they just scrapped the character at the end.
Oh, I wish they would have kept Spooky. That would have been awesome.
You can blame Harry Potter. Thanks, Harry Potter.
Dang it, Harry Potter. Every time.
Every time. The love for the series has sparked a social media campaign, #GoGhostAgain, dedicated to bringing back the series after its 10-year cancellation. So, and that's kind of a more recent thing, which is interesting.
I'm just kind of wondering at this point, though, like what show doesn't have like fans asking for it to come back? You know,
some kind of hashtag dedicated to it. Yeah, I guess it's not so rare anymore.
For a while, I was just like, man, that's really cool. You know, the fandom's pulling together. But you got like they're doing it for like Gargoyles and this and pretty much any cartoon that's been canceled. There is a campaign to get it back. But who knows? I mean, people campaigned for Firefly when that went off the air and they got a movie out of it. So
you think Jason the Wheeled Warriors has a group? Do they have a hashtag?
Yeah. Let me see. Well, it looks like you've been using a hashtag about it. So, are you the only fan?
I might be. All it takes is one to start it off.
I like your hashtag. Make America Saw Boss again.
Did I use that, or was that sounds like someone else?
I don't know. Make America Saw Boss.
Oh again. Boy. Also, on February 21st, 2017, Nickelodeon released an online animated Danny Phantom short, The Fairly Odd Phantom, a crossover featuring characters from The Fairly Odd Parents, TUFF Puppy, and Bunsen is a Beast, which were all shows created by Butch Hartman. Due to the success of this, Butch Hartman released an exclusive crossover comic called The Fairly Odd Phantom, based on that short at San Diego Comic-Con in 2017. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, and this is obviously this year. Well, this year as of I guess it won't be this year anymore when this comes out. Or yes, it will. It'll be the 30th, right?
Sure.
So 2017, when you're hearing this, if you're hearing this on Saturday or Sunday, on July 20th of 2017, Butch Hartman announced that he was working on a Danny Phantom-like show for YouTube, or it's unknown when the series will be released, but it will also serve as a spiritual successor to Danny Phantom, not directly tied to it necessarily, but it'll be kind of the next step that Butch Hartman wants to carry it, and it's going to be on his channel, and where he's going to keep producing more of his series and things like that. So
that's cool.
As far as I know, yeah, but that's as of July. So as far as I know, it's not out yet, and I don't know if there's been an announcement as to when it's going to be brought out. But yeah, it's still something that's in circulation, and even though it won't be Danny Phantom, it'll be something similar to it, according to him.
I was going to say, like, if animators have the money to go the YouTube route, you know, with shows that were previously established, but they can't get a studio to pick it back up, man, just make it and go the YouTube route. That's going to be really awesome, especially for the fans, you know, until the whole, you know, fallout from losing net neutrality happens, and then none of us can afford YouTube. But until that point, that's great.
Yeah.
I do want to say, like, I think that if you want a cartoon to come back and it's just, you know, the production is just too much for that, man, comic route, go the comic, like, make comics of these cartoons, because that would be great. I mean, you can continue the story pretty much however you want. You don't have all the same kind of rules and regulations that you got to stick to with television and stuff. So, I mean, just throwing it out there so any creators, like all of those creators listening to our show that have worked on previously established cartoons that have been canceled, start making comic books.
Yeah, I mean, he did make that one crossover comic, so it's something that he's done before. Maybe he just prefers the animation route.
Yeah.
So, do you have any memories of this show? Like, it came out 2004, so we had just graduated from high school, right?
Yeah, we graduated in 2003 because we're OGs. Yeah, like I kind of knew of it. I didn't know what it was about. For whatever reason, I thought this was a spinoff of Kim Possible. I mean, I've got no reason for that. I just kind of assumed. I don't know. Maybe it's because they had some similar animation styles. I don't know. Maybe they were out there around the same time. It's that's all. Yeah. But I knew that a kid had white hair and he could pop out of things. And I didn't know exactly he was a ghost, but I mean, Phantom kind of, told you there's something goofy going on with him.
Gives it away a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat. Like, I had heard of it, I had seen images of it and whatnot, and for some reason, and again, it's kind of like you, I didn't think it was a spin-off of Kim Possible, but I thought it had something to do with it. Like, where I thought it was at least by the same creators or something. But as far as I know, they're literally like worlds apart as far as like the creation goes. I don't think they had anything to do with each other at all.
Yeah, I kind of for some reason thought maybe they crossed over or shared the same universe. I'm gonna guess that's completely wrong, but it's weird that both of us, having not talked about it, thought the same thing.
It's Illuminati stuff.
I think so. Like, you'll see that triangle hidden in there somewhere.
It's just like the whole Bernstein Bears thing instead of the Bernstein Bears.
Oh my God. You just blew my mind.
But yeah, like I had never watched it either for no real reason. I mean, it was on and it looked cool to me, but I was like, I just never really had caught it at the time. Yeah. And by the time, I guess I got around to, well, I don't know why, if I was even watching cartoons at that time or not, but in 2007 it had ended. So it's like, it played through without me having caught any of it.
Good.
Let's talk about the episodes we watched for today's show. The very first episode, highest rated episode, and finally, random listener chosen episode. Order may vary depending on how these episodes fall chronologically, but of course, we have to start with the very first episode being Mystery Meat, Season 1, Episode 1. So in this one, when Danny's friend Sam changes the school lunch menu, it causes a ghost named the Lunch Lady to escape from the ghost world, who has control over all meats. I
wish I had control over all meats. I would just direct them straight to my mouth.
Yeah. I figured.
Oh man, let's nobody re-edit that out of context, please, because that's not gonna go
all meats in my mouth
at all
right now. Yeah,
yeah. But the ghost was named very well, Lunch Lady.
It seems like all the ghosts in this have pretty appropriate names to what they are.
I really like the box ghost.
The box ghost is amazing. I love how he is a recurring terrible character.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Rob Paulson also. I'm not entirely sure, but it sounded like him.
So it starts out with Danny's father like telling all the kids like if they want to hunt ghost or like asking them if they want to hunt ghost or whatever and trying to show them all this equipment and stuff. So I guess basically let's just lay it out like the intro does. I mean, they heard the intro when they started this episode, but basically Danny's parents built this machine that's like a ghost portal that kind of lets them transfer between worlds and or lets ghosts actually come to. And what it was for originally was so they could get some insight on the afterlife, on ghost life, I guess, or afterlife. And then for some reason apparently it didn't work or whatever the way that they intended it to, so they just kind of gave up on it. And Danny goes in there to explore, to, try to figure out what happened, or I guess look at it or check it out. And at least from the intro, it looks like he just pushes the on button and it turns on and starts working. But it also merges some of his DNA with ectoplasm, which makes him a half ghost, half human. That's what gives him these powers that he doesn't really have complete control of yet, because when we start the series, I think he said it was like a month ago he got that this actually happened.
Yeah, I think so. And it's like he goes through a physical transformation when its powers kick in. Like his normal clothes turn into a jumpsuit with a D on it, and his hair turns white, and his eyes turn green.
Yeah, because normally he's like brunette with blue eyes. Is that what it was?
I think so.
Yeah, in the intro of not the intro part, but at the beginning of this episode, we get to see as his dad's talking and trying to explain all this equipment to everyone. Like he shows them the ghost thermos, and which is literally just looks like a thermos that you're supposed to be able to capture ghosts in, but he says it doesn't work yet. And then you see these ghosts come out of the portal as he has his back turned and is trying to explain something, and that's where Danny has to go ghost, and but I don't think we see him at this point really do this. and these octopus-looking ghosts come out of the portal. He fights them off because they're like capturing his friends, and then like pushes him back into the portal, and then like turns back to normal before his dad turns around. So it kind of gives us a quick preview of what happens and how like not stupid his dad is, but really kind of oblivious to everything going on.
Stupid.
Well, yeah. I mean, for a scientist, he's...
Yeah. Well, and what I think is funny and I enjoy is it kind of gets disclosed that even though, like, his dad and mom are, like, hunting ghosts and things, the dad does say that they've never actually seen a ghost.
Yeah,
so they, like, spend all their lives and time doing this thing that they've never even actually, like, confirmed and, like, have no reason to really be doing it. They just... assume that there's ghosts out there, but they don't even really know. But I guess, if you're a ghost hunter, you're pretty much doing the same thing. Unless you're making it, as a reality TV show, which pretty much all of them are. So, yeah, it works, I guess.
It's an interesting dynamic they have. And you'll see right off the bat that this is more, I mean, as much as it is like a superhero type action show, it's also very comedic. And it relies pretty heavily on that comedy to push a lot of these weird, it's kind of a weird universe that it has going on. But the comedy helps to push it along without making it too serious ever. Like it never gets to the point where it's like, oh, this is getting way too serious without having some kind of laugh in the back.
So back at school, their Danny's friend Sam. So Danny, Tucker, and Sam are all friends. Sam's the girl, and she has ascended beyond vegan and has gotten everyone to start eating grass and dirt. At least they got the cafeteria menu changed to it. Like there's a piece of bread covered in grass. And later they serve mud pies, but made of actual mud. Because Sam doesn't eat anything that had a face.
It's not mud, Chris. It's topsoil.
Well, I'm not a dirt scientist. I don't know these things.
Not a mud doctor.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't have a PhD in dirt yet. I still got a couple more semesters, but so anyway, the lunch lady ghost is here and she's angry that the menu has been changed because the menu's been the same for years. And
50 years.
That's when she starts, throwing meat at people and getting all mad. At one point, she like makes all the meat come to her, and she becomes a big old meat monster, and that sounds delicious right now.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool too.
Yeah, if I were Danny, I would just be ready with a big bottle of A1 steak sauce, and I would take him down.
Well, it almost looks like that's the way Tucker was planning on doing it too.
Yeah, me and Tucker, we're on the same level because Tucker loves meat.
Yeah, he loves meat, but he's like a meat like expert where he can smell it from like a mile away. Like he has just a nose for it.
I got to give him credit because that takes a long time to hone. You just got to go around sniffing meat wherever you can find it. I mean, for years, especially if you're in a restaurant, there's so many smells going on. You got to go to each table and start sniffing, and sniffing people's breath so you can kind of figure it out. So
it's required training. Yeah. To be a meat master.
Exactly. I do like the lunch lady like keeps like she'll be all scary and then she'll be like, oh, how about a cookie? And they'll be like, oh, okay. And then she's like, too bad. And then starts yelling again and throwing things at him. But it happens like throughout the episode. And I think that's funny.
It was almost like she was bipolar in a way.
Yeah.
But it's like, she would offer you something, and even if you accepted it, she would completely turn her head on it or like do a 180 on it and turn against you. But I did like her meat monster form. It was like imagine the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but made of meat and without a sailor outfit.
Oh yeah, especially at the end of the episode where you get the big battle, she gets even more meat, and at first there's a giant meat tornado. And that is just glorious. and then the meat tornado turns into, a giant meat monster the size of like Stay Puft. So.
Oh yeah, because this was actually partially Tucker's fault that she ever became that big because like he was trying to get meat brought back to the school because in his mind, like that's what's going to ward the lunch lady off because really that's her primary goal here is to get meat back on the menu and to try to get Sam to eat meat, which he traps her in at one point. And Tucker tries to help her eat her way out of it. Yeah, but after they go back to the school, like Tucker starts throwing a meat protest, like a pro meat protest,
a meat rally,
then a meat rally, and then Sam is throwing a vegetarian rally, and so it's this giant gathering of meat that allows her to summon this giant meat tornado, as you say, and become this meat kaiju monster.
There's kind of a subplot going on here with Danny's sister Jazz, who I like Jazz a lot. I think she's one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character of the show. For whatever reason, their parents think Jazz is a ghost and just keep stalking her and like shooting her with things and trying to capture her. And it takes her a while to convince them that she's not a ghost. But I just thought like it had nothing really to do with the rest of the episode. But like I actually enjoyed those parts more than I did with the main plot line, just because I think his family is very funny.
Them trying to catch her or to get the ghost, to suck the ghost out of her with that little like ghost vacuum they had.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was good.
The reason they suspected her in the first place was completely like nonsensical because they had this tracker that was obviously pointing towards Danny, but she was in the room as well. And then she is trying to protect him because I think at this point she even knows, like Danny doesn't know she knows, but I think she knows that he is, Danny Phantom also.
I don't think she knew in this episode, but I think at another point in the show she did figure it out, but she's very like overprotective of him.
Yeah, she was protecting him for some reason or another. And it might be because of the book that she was reading, something about...
Yeah, she thinks her parents suck at parenting.
Yeah.
Which she does say, so...
Oh, Surviving Adolescence Through Therapy is the book she was reading. And so because she was reading that, like she was extra nice to Danny and offered to take him to school or something. And for that reason, the parents were like, she's not usually this nice to him. She must be the ghost. And so for the rest of the episode, that's what they're dwelling on is the fact that she was super nice.
Right.
Unusually nice to him.
But I mean, as you could imagine, Danny defeats the lunch lady ghost / meat monster and, things go back to relatively normal.
Which was cool the way that he did it because he uses this, that thermos, the Fenton thermos that they were showing, that his dad was showing them all earlier, that didn't work. Like they hadn't gotten it to work yet, obviously because they hadn't seen a ghost even. So he was like channeling his phantom power through it. And in a very Ghostbuster-like fashion, there's a beam that comes out of the thermos and brings the ghost into it and traps her in it. It had a lot of things that were reminding me of Ghostbusters in there, which you kind of can't avoid if you're a show that's literally about capturing ghosts.
Yeah, it's impossible not to have some sort of there's going to be some non-original ideas there. Mm-hmm. One other thing that I guess is semi-important, not so much in this episode, but I guess for other episodes, is that his parents saw him in his ghost form, but, they didn't realize that was their son, but now they've seen a ghost.
At that point, like his dad's I think he's telling Jazz, he's like, I told you so, like, I knew it. I knew there was ghost. Even though he was starting to doubt it himself at the end of this episode. Yeah,
it was at one point he was just like, all right, I'm giving up. Like, there's no such thing as ghosts. And then he sees Danny and he's like, I told you there was ghosts.
Yeah. I never doubted it for a second.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, there's this, and this is not super important in this episode, but it does come up later too. There's this bully. His primary bully's name is Dash. And he's the big blonde jock guy. Yeah. And he does play a lot of roles in these other episodes. So just thought I'd bring him up.
Oh, and also, we know when there's a ghost around because Danny starts vaping. Like, you see his, his blue cloud floating out of his mouth.
I didn't really know what to think. Like, I was like, is it like it's cold around him and he's breathing like cold air out?
Because it's only him, none of the others.
Yeah, that's it.
I think he just
breath smell. Like, what's going on?
He just off camera, he starts vaping and then he blows the cloud out and he's like, yeah, there's a ghost.
There's a ghost somewhere.
And then like his friend Sam's just like, that's still not safe. I mean, you're still going to get cancer. And he's like, I'm a ghost.
Yeah, but it's cool though.
It's cool. It makes me look cool. Blowing doomsdays.
So the next episode we watched for today's show was Splitting Images, season 1, episode 5. This one was actually chosen by Sam. So thanks, Sam.
This was chosen by Sam. Thank you. And it was an enjoyable one. It was fun.
Yeah, after the box ghost destroys Danny's locker, he's assigned a new one, locker 724, which happens to be haunted by the bully-hating ghost of its previous owner.
Whose name was Sydney Poindexter.
Yeah, that's just a name you're just asking to get beat up.
And like, he didn't act like it, but he reminds me, the way he looks and stuff, of that guy from Dexter's Laboratory.
Oh,
like
Mandark.
Dexter's nemesis. What is it?
Yeah, Mandark.
Mandark, that's right. Who does the ha 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 kind of laugh over and over again.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does look like that, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could totally see what you're talking about. But this is the first time we get to see the box ghost. Chris and I guess he had been in some previous episodes because they were acting like he had been and he was just not a big deal.
Yeah, they're just kind of like, oh, not again.
Not again. Yeah, and he was talking about how he was going to get his corrugated cardboard vengeance on them.
Sam's whole deal this episode, where the past episode it was changing the cafeteria to like no meats or wheat or anything like that, pretty much. This episode, it's about stopping the dissection of frogs.
Yeah.
Which I can agree with just because it's gross. And I think it's, ugh. But so she's through this whole episode, she has this very like anti-frog dissection thing going on, which leads to trying to liberate live frogs from the school.
And she's created some kind of like mecha frog that talks you through the dissection.
She made like a little robo frog. So a lot of this episode was basically like Danny, he's getting bullied by Dash because that's Dash's job, is to be a douchebag and, bossing people around in his Letterman's jacket and embarrass people. Mm-hmm. So Danny he's with his powers, he starts kind of getting revenge. Like he'll possess Dash's body for a second and like slam it into a locker or make him drop food on somebody else. You kind of see too when he gets that new locker, which is possessed by Sydney. Sydney's kind of doing similar things. So Sydney can kind of see some stuff that's happening in the hallway of jocks trying to pick on nerds or other people. And Sydney somehow manipulates the situations also. And at one point, when Danny tries to get revenge on Dash for something, Sydney sees it and mistakes Danny as being the bully. So Sydney, therefore, goes after Danny. And just, all that kind of mix-up stuff happens.
Yeah, because he sees Danny actually possess Dash at one point, and
Yes.
he wasn't aware that he was able to do that. So that's where he takes it to the next level and possesses Danny's body and pushes Danny's, I guess, essence out into his own body, and then kicks him back into the mirror that was in the locker. Basically,
Yes.
his gateway through the ghost world.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. So Sydney's spirit is now in Danny's body, in Danny's reality. Danny's spirit is in the whatever ghostish body of Sydney in this world within the mirror. Yeah.
That's set like in the 50s or something.
Yeah, it looks like it's in the 50s. And at first I thought, he's living Sydney's life, but I don't think that's the case because everyone in there is a ghost.
Yeah.
So, and they know who Danny is.
Yeah, they keep calling him
Haffa.
First Sydney calls him a Haffa, who's half boy, half ghost. What was weird to me was, like you were kind of explaining there, when he got kicked into Sydney, so his spirit was in Sydney's ghost body. I guess that's a really strange thing to even explain.
Yes, yeah.
But it's like, you would think it would just be his spirit on the other side, but it's just his essence inside Sydney's ghost. So that was the weirdest part.
Yeah, it just kind of gives you a headache if you think about it too much.
Yeah. But it makes sense in the context of things because you get to see basically how Sydney was living this life of even his afterlife was being bullied at school in the same way that he was when he was alive. So yeah, that was just pure torture.
So now Danny is getting bullied by those ghosts over there. Sydney, on the other hand, within Danny's body is becoming really popular because he's just doing these things, like he's doing these favors for the jocks and stuff like that, thinking that they're nice kids.
Thinking that they're the ones getting bullied.
Yeah, and the jocks are kind of trying to take advantage of it, thinking they're going to get one over on this Danny. But this Danny keeps just doing things, not really even on purpose, that instead makes him look really cool. So the whole school ends up really liking him.
Yeah, so it's a huge contrast, and Danny's able to catch glimpses of things happening through that mirror, even though he can't quite like come out of it. He tries to send some messages to his friends, to Sam and Tucker, but I think in the one attempt he makes of that, like when he writes out what's happened, his parents come in and kind of foil that by like stepping all over the ground that he wrote it on.
Yeah, so at the beginning of this episode, when Danny reveals, oh yeah, I have to get a new locker, his dad immediately jumps to this idea that the locker's probably haunted without knowing any background or history of this locker. It just kind of so happens that he was correct. Yeah, they're there trying to find the ghost from that locker. Yeah.
We do get to see some ghost gloves earlier in the episode, though.
Oh, the ghost gloves, that's right.
Which his dad shows are used to basically to punch ghosts as if they were physical, or
yes,
like even if you're like a normal person, to punch ghosts. So we don't know how it's going to come into play yet, but it really does towards the end.
I would love to punch a ghost, if I could. Yeah. So Danny finds a way to get in touch with Sam and Tucker. And they figure out, okay, yeah, that's Danny. Oh, on the other side, so the Sydney ghost is in Danny. So they are able to lure the fake Danny to the locker, and Tucker puts the gloves on and is able to basically shove him through the mirror so that real Danny and Sydney as fake Danny are both in that ghost universe and can have a showdown.
And so Danny, on the other side of that with Sydney, threatens to smash the mirror that is their gateway back to the regular world. And it's kind of like one of those things where Sydney's like, you wouldn't, because you need to be trapped here too. And he's like, basically like, try me or whatever. Right. And so what Sydney's idea is, he's like, okay, well, if I repossess my own body, then I can just make you put that mirror back or whatever, and then send myself back through, and everything will be fine again. And so he tries to do that, and then Danny's able to kind of fight him off and retake his own body back, and push him through. But he leaves it almost leaves on kind of a positive note where Danny makes a decent impression, at least, on the other kids at Sydney's side of things, because because of the fight that happens at the end between Danny and Sydney. And so they're offering to, or like the popular girl offers to like have, what was it, like egg something with them?
They
like
want to have an egg. An egg. They want to make eggs together.
It was like eggs, not egg soda, but it was some kind of egg drink or something.
Yeah, they're gonna just knocking eggs together.
Gross. And so he's like, okay, well, I guess I'll stay. Like he's not being bullied as much anymore, so it leaves it on a positive note on both sides of things. Except when Danny comes back into it, like he's back to being bullied and whatever. So it's like, well, it's returning things to normal. And the box ghost comes again to close out the episode, where he's saying that he's the mechanical frog ghost now. And then then he changes his mind and says he wants nothing to do with mechanical amphibians. And then, I don't know, gets pushed back into the ghost world or something. He just has really small parts, but it is really funny when he comes out.
Yeah, he just keeps showing up, and yeah, he likes to be around. He's lonely.
So for the last episode we watched for today's show, it was The Ultimate Enemy, Season 2, Episode 8 and 9. And in this one, Danny debates whether or not to cheat on a career aptitude test, and then a bleak glimpse into the future reveals his 24-year-old self to be the most evil ghost on the planet.
And this is the highest rated, and like, I think, if I remember right, this premiered as kind of like a movie on Nickelodeon, right?
I don't remember, but it could have, yeah.
I think
it was definitely
did.
2 episodes, yeah.
So we first see the future, and it's very future-y, like flying cars future-y.
But this is only 10 years in the future.
Yeah, even though it's only 10 years, like it's super high-tech and everything.
Yeah, it's like Blade Runner future versus normal 2004 or whatever year. So this would have been 2014. This is what their expectations were of 2014.
We see this woman, and I don't remember her name, and I get the feeling it's someone that the kids knew, possibly in school.
Valerie.
Okay, Valerie. So she's fighting against this ghost and not doing the best, and he ends up destroying what's left of like the Fenton lab and all that kind of stuff.
First, it was the Fright Knight who came out, who's this like blue, he's this like black and blue looking knight dude. He looks pretty cool, but he is working for someone more powerful, he says, and that is who ends up being Danny Phantom, or Dan Phantom as he refers to himself now, the older Phantom. Danny. Yeah, Dan Phantom.
It's not FBI. Like that intimidating.
No.
You know?
No, not really.
It's like he's got like a cousin named like Rob Banshee.
So Danny Fenton is his name, like Peter Parker, but then instead of being like Spider-Man, he's just Danny Phantom. And it sounds so much like Danny Fenton that it's like, why not just change your name entirely or just be the Phantom or something? I mean, I guess the Phantom's taken, so you can't really do that, but be Phantom Boy or anything but something that's just your name with a slightly different last name.
They'd be like Peter Parker going by the name Peter Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. Peter Spider.
Yeah. It's not great. No. Then we're also introduced to this character named Clockwork, who's watching all these events unfold. And what I like about that character is this is a character that is removed from time, and he observes all the time and knows all the time. And his design keeps changing randomly from being like looking young to looking middle-aged to looking old, and it just keeps randomly changing around for no real reason. And I thought that was kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, his character is very well designed, and he just says like he is kind of out, like you said, outside of time. So he's not in the past, present, or future. He just is, and so that's why he's all of the above. The observants, I think, are what these like eyeball-looking dudes are who are with Clockwork, and they're telling him to save the future, Danny Phantom must perish. Like, he must be killed.
I guess Clockwork, knowing all, is just kind of like, you know, let's you know, we need to let some things play out, but we'll pay attention.
Yeah, it's hard to tell what his motives are at first or what direction he's going to take it, because he's very calm about everything. Like, you don't know if he's aiming to actually take out Danny or what.
And his voice sounds like he would be an evil character, you know.
His voice was actually David Carradine, I think.
So back at the school, Danny comes in contact with a few ghosts. One of them is by far my favorite. Box Lunch.
Oh, yeah.
I love Box Lunch. Box Lunch is a ghost that is the offspring of the Box Ghost and Lunch Lady Ghost, which is just hilarious.
But she uses like her mother does. She kind of surrounds herself with not just meats, though. Like, since she's part Box Ghost too, she's able to use like boxed meals and stuff too. Surrounds herself with food to form like an armor of sorts.
Yeah.
Box Lunch came about because what's his face? Clockwork put her there. Like, he put her up to it, brought her out of time to send her to this time to make these events start. It's almost like, if you overthink this a little bit, there's a paradox here where it's like, I wonder how it originally all happened.
Because, yeah, like you said, Clockwork doing this thing that he did is causing something that should happen anyway, some other way.
Yeah, and it's
know.
like, how did it happen originally? Because the main idea here, the main driving point is what needs to happen or what's going to happen inevitably is this. So the burger place, local burger place is called Nasty Burger. And apparently if the chemicals are heated too much or something, or if they catch fire, then it will cause almost the equivalent of a nuclear explosion because of the various, I don't remember how many like different ingredients they said there were, but it was like 40 something or 70 something ingredients.
Sounds
and
right.
if they're overheated too much, they will explode and take out the whole city block. And so that's an event that has to happen for this terrible future where Danny becomes this monster to occur. And one of the driving points of that is Danny cheating on this CAT test, this career assessment test. When Danny's trying to fight Box Lunch, like there's some kind of explosion or something that happens and he gets pushed through the vice principal's briefcase that has this paper in it. And like he takes it with him, like accidentally, like it gets like stuck to him.
Right.
As he passes through that lunchbox or through the briefcase.
So he's got the answers, and Sam is kind of like, you shouldn't do it. Tucker's kind of like, yeah, why not? And his sister, so Lancer kind of starts he knows that somebody's got him, and he starts kind of thinking that it's Danny. So he brings Jazz into it. He calls Jazz and is talking, and Jazz is not wanting him to cheat either, but not wanting to say anything either to Danny about it. Like she's kind of like hiding outside the door when the test actually starts.
I guess something to point out also is that Jazz, his sister, has gotten the highest score on the career aptitude test as well to this point. So she's a very intelligent girl.
Right. Yeah, much smarter than her parents.
And Danny's just kind of an average intelligence guy. Like he's not like super smart or dumb. He's just there. I know he fights that combination of Skulker and Technus together. That guy who's like the green fire dude with like what Technus is like this guy who's like he's a tech villain, but it's Rob Paulson almost trying to imitate Gilbert Gottfried's voice, if you think about it like that.
And I kept thinking it was Gilbert Godfrey for a little bit.
The time medallion falls off. I think it falls off it falls off the villain. It falls off this Skulk Tech guy or whatever his name is. And everyone's holding on to Danny at the same time because Danny's trapped in this claw that the Skulk Tech guy has on him. And so when the villain gets sucked back into the past because his medallion falls off, so does Danny because he's in contact with them, and his friends are trying to free Danny, so they're in contact with them as well. So they all get taken into the future because the medallion was taken off of the villain.
So they end up there in the future. First they run into Valerie, who thinks that our Danny is the evil Danny, and she's like, you're not going to fool me and stuff. And there's kind of a quick altercation till they figure out, or she figures out that's not him. But then the real Dan Phantom shows up and reveals himself, and the dude is just straight evil.
Yeah, and we find out that he's had his human half removed a long time ago, but we don't know why yet.
I do like it. Well, it's interesting how that happened too, just for the sake of the backstory of it. So, who is the guy that pulls it out of him? It's a guy that also has the same powers as Danny.
Yeah, Vlad Masters, for a quick backstory on him, at least from what I know he used to go to school with Danny's parents, and in some way with the experiments that they were doing with the ghost world and stuff, like he was infected with some kind of ghost acne, and that made him unpopular at school, but it also made him half ghost. So he was dealing with the whole half human, half ghost thing long before Danny was. So that's why he's brought into this a little bit later.
So he's the original Haffa.
Yeah, basically. And what kind of happens is, and it's almost heartbreaking in a way, the way that it lays it out. And I like the way they did this is you hear, So with the explosion and like I said, inevitably the Nasty Burger has to explode. But because Danny cheated on this test at whatever point this happened, whatever timeline this happened originally, the vice principal wants his parents to meet him in front of the Nasty Burger. And then his friends go there as well to try to stop them from doing that because they know it's about to explode or something. And at that point, like, it does explode and all his friends and family are killed in the explosion. And that just makes Danny like go into a reclusive state of, basically almost like I don't even want to live anymore. So he doesn't want emotions anymore. He wants to just have his ghost half be the prevalent one. So he goes to this guy, Vlad Masters, because he's also dealing with this as well. Is the only other person in the world who knew his secret or who he could go to for it. And so he uses the ghost gloves to pull Danny's human half out, or his phantom half out of his human side. And then at the same time, Vlad's ghost half merges with Danny's ghost half. And so it's just pure evil ghost with zero human emotion there. And that's what makes him like the ultimate villain. Yeah. And you kind of see like a little flashback of him, the body kind of cowering in the corner as the ghost approach it. Yeah,
so it's a sad and very interesting and kind of like not expected backstory that like they went a little dark with that, and I was kind of surprised they did with this kind of show. But I mean, I guess like when I say it went dark with kid gloves on, but it's still really cool.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think that it's definitely, at least to the point that we had come to this show, it was uncharted territory for us. Like we weren't expecting, or at least I wasn't expecting it to get that almost like a touch on that subject so maturely. I thought it was just going to be some weird, like goofy thing like the rest of the show had been.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that was kind of funny though, when they get in the future, you see that there is a statue of Danny's family and friends, and it says, yeah, gone but not forgotten. And then there's a separate statue because Vice Principal Lancer was killed in that same explosion. So there's a statue of him across from it, and it just says gone.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was great. That made me laugh.
That made me laugh too. That was really good. And it does that almost like the music where it's just like womp womp.
Yeah, exactly.
That was really good. That was just but that's like I said, what they do with this show is like when they do touch into kind of serious territory, it's always backed with some kind of humor. And that was the perfect levity for a moment like that.
And so as you were saying before, they had these medallions that would keep them in this other timeline. Dan Phantom attempts to kill Sam and Tucker by dropping a building on them, but they take their medallions off right before it crushes them, so they go back to their present. And then as Dan and Danny fight and all that good stuff, it's kind of like it's similar to the last episode again. So Dan Phantom gets to Danny's present and masquerades as Danny. So he goes in, he takes the CAT, he cheats on it. He's making sure that everything that's supposed to fall in place for him to become who he is takes place. What's interesting though, like I said, it's that paradox thing that's really weird. Because it's like, well, how did this happen before? Is this how it happened? But what started it? Like, this doesn't make sense. Jazz figures it out because she's smart and she's the best character. She figures it out. She's got like this ghost armored stuff on, which I assume is kind of like the same thing as the gauntlets, but it's armor for her whole body, which is cool. And then she starts to fight Danny, who reveals himself to be Dan Phantom. But he still gets them all rounded up at the burger place and is ready to blow the thing as Danny is trying to stop him but can't. Clockwork is the one that actually steps in and saves the day.
Yeah, it's almost like if you think about like in Marvel Comics, Uatu the Watcher, it's like he's not supposed to interfere, he's just supposed to observe. But in this case, and the whole idea was like, Danny's cheating on this test is kind of what like not directly, but that's what indirectly led to all this happening in the first place. And I thought it was cool how they actually made that the catalyst for it. But, and in this case, like it was almost like history is going to repeat itself no matter what. But Clockwork standing in or jumping in and doing his thing where it's like a, timeout, where when he says that, it literally stops all time around him except for him or anyone with the medallions on, I think.
Yeah.
And he says time in to bring it back in. But with the timeout, he rewinds it a little bit to like right before it's about to happen and saves his parents and everyone from being caught in the explosion, like kind of protects them there. And so with that, the observants are there and they're like talking to him like cheating is what got him to this point in the first place, but you kind of cheated to make this happen. And he's like, what are you going to do? Basically, like it needed to be done.
Well, he's just kind of like, he's like, I knew that was how it's supposed to go because I know everything. He's like, I'm the master of time. But
and he's like, everybody deserves a second chance. And this was his. The observants were saying that, well, now that you've done this, like you have to look over this kid now, and as well as the adult version, because he's now outside of time. Because it makes sense though, because now that Dan Phantom is trapped in this,
they trapped him in another device.
Like since he's trapped in there now, he's trapped outside of time because he doesn't exist anymore technically. Because since Danny's not going to go evil, that would make him to where he didn't exist. But since he still does, that means he has been dragged outside of time.
Right. And Clockwork is keeping him in his lair. So yeah, he definitely exists outside of time. And they do this thing at the end that makes it look like he might escape. But
yeah, like he's kind of breaking through the
container
thermos thing. Yeah.
And that makes me wonder too, like, okay, well, did Clockwork know that? Did Clockwork remove him from time so he could escape from the container at some point and be outside of time and be even more powerful?
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know, man.
Seems like he says he knows everything, but who knows?
He knows everything, but he makes poor decisions, maybe?
Maybe. But it was a cool episode, though. I see why this was the highest rated, because it was really interesting and had some emotional moments to it. And also, like, time travel stuff, when it's handled right, it's actually really cool. And I think they did a really good job with this one, where it doesn't feel like you could step back and be like, oh, there's no way this could happen, or too big of a paradox, because it's like, okay, all of this could have happened, presumably, and it was just Dan Phantom kind of trying to manipulate it to make sure that it did happen the exact way that it's supposed to. So it makes sense. It's not really like there's a lot of loopholes you could look into there.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Well, Chris, it looks like it's about time we send our inner kids to the ghost world to prevent the box ghost from getting his corrugated cardboard vengeance, so they can tell us firsthand what it's like to go ghost, and also what they thought of the show Danny Phantom.
Danny Phantom was pretty cool, but Danny himself seemed a little lame. But there were so many cool and funny ghosts, and his family was really funny, and Jazz is my new girlfriend, and together we will stop Danny from becoming evil so I can take his powers and become evil instead. So I gave this cartoon 3.5 bowls of Meat Monster cereal out of 5.
As corny as this cartoon sets itself up to be, with the premise being a 14-year-old boy using his newly gained phantom powers to fight off ghosts who are escaping from the ghost world, it actually managed to pull it off. I think in large part it has to do with the comedic element tied to the show. It doesn't take itself overly seriously and has fun with the wacky universe it's presenting to us, and as the viewer, I too had fun visiting it. In addition, the quirky characters, which are the majority, all seem to have their place and don't seem to overstay their welcome, even if they're mainly used as walking punchlines, much like Danny's father. Of course, I also appreciate the various ghost/horror Easter eggs, as subtle as some of them were. Overall, I'd give Danny Phantom 4.5 big bowls of Boomerang Bites cereal out of 5, and I definitely hope to see more of Butch Hartman's work in the near future. And also, this Clockwork guy seems like an alright dude. Maybe he'll help me with some timeout powers to stop myself before I decide to awkwardly talk to girls. At least until I'm old enough and mature enough to truly understand what I'm doing without embarrassing myself, so that I can lay on the charm.
Yeah, I don't know how to tell you this, but you never truly understand what you're doing when it comes to women, and nor do you ever really mature. So, sorry, young me. I'm afraid that's something not even the Time Master can help us with.
It'd be so much easier, though, if you had the phantom powers and you could control people and turn invisible and all kinds of stuff. You know, that would be fun.
Yeah, or if you could just time out and rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
So that way, when you hit on girls and you get rejected, which happens a lot, you can just be like, all right, well, rewind. Don't talk to this person. I'll go get burgers instead.
Or you just keep rewinding to figure out what line will actually work.
Yeah.
If any.
All right. Take 234.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be like filming The Room.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you have any final thoughts on Danny Phantom?
You know, I thought this was a really cool show. I mean, I gave it a pretty high rating, and it's something I would definitely venture back into. And I did like the Fairly Odd Parents as well. I don't think we watched it for this show, but I have watched it before. And so I didn't know that it was created by the same person, Butch Hartman. So it's like, I enjoy his humor. I like the characters that he makes, and I like this animation on this show. So I'm curious to check out what else he has going on, especially on his YouTube channel. So I'd recommend giving it a shot. I think that even though to the point that it almost sounds really lame because it's talking about ghost worlds and ghost powers, but like it's a big part of it, but it plays it in such a funny way that you totally go along with it and you start to appreciate it. So it surprised me in a positive way, and I'm glad it did.
Yeah, it's an interesting show. It didn't pull me in as much as I expected it to, but I do think that the idea was cool and it had plenty of enjoyable parts to it and some good laughs. I think some of the characters outshone others, which is typical of any show, but to me, I think almost every tertiary character outshone Danny from the episodes that we saw. But I do have to give credit where it's due. The last episode was pretty enjoyable, and I think that the idea that Danny himself was capable of becoming the big bad is an awesome idea, and I'm glad that they went that way with it because that was something I didn't expect.
Yeah, and the way that they played it out I thought was really cool too, where it's almost like this was his last-ditch effort because he lost everything that he cared for. And it's like, I did not expect him to go that route, but it's cool that they did. So thanks, Sam, for suggesting this to us. This was a really cool show.
Yeah, thank you, Sam.
Well, listeners, it looks like our milk supply is now run dry, so it's time for us to say goodbye. And next week, we'll be watching
The Thing, suggested via YouTube by Frank Dwayne Miller.
Wait, what is this? I know The Thing from John Carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure that's not what we're watching.
It is not.
Do you know what? Have you heard of this before?
I know what it is, yes.
Okay, weird. I have no idea.
It's made by Hanna-Barbera, so it's not going to be very similar to the John Carpenter thing.
Not super violent, not
In
killer
fact,
dogs.
it's going to have nothing to do with the John Carpenter movie.
Not even a man being eaten by another man's chest?
No, but it'll be a man becoming another man made of rocks.
Oh, The Thing.
Uh-huh.
Okay. No, I know exactly. Fantastic Four. I got you.
Uh-huh. But he had his own show, apparently.
Really? I didn't know
for some
that.
reason,
Okay.
in the 70s.
Well, what
So
is it
you
he
know it's going to
says?
be good.
Something about his Aunt Petunia and stuff.
Sure.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out.
The Thing's supposed to be from Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
So I just pictured like him walking down the street. Someone's like walking in his path or bumps into him. And instead of saying the typical, like, I'm walking here, he says, I'm rocking here.
I'm rocking here.
Hey, I'm rocking here.
Oh my God. What if his catchphrase is like, let's get hard?
Oh, no. That's bad. That's real bad.
I know, but like, what if like back in the time period that this was set, like that didn't have any
That
kind of
would be
euphemism
fantastic.
thing to it.
I hope
That would
we
be
hear
hilarious.
both of these things.
Would it be Fantastic Four though? All right, we should leave. We should go.
We should quit this podcast.
Yeah.
While we can.
All right. Well, once again, I'm Joseph.
And I'm Chris.
We'll see you next Saturday.
Presented by Nerdsloth.
A place for lazy nerds.
If you like what you heard, consider donating at patreon.com/nerdsloth so we can continue bringing you quality shows. Be sure to also leave us a review and share your favorite episodes and clips on social media. If you're looking for more content, visit us at nerdsloth.com.